Hey guys, it's me, Miss Miller, here to teach you about factoring quadratics when a is not 1. All of our other videos and tutorials have been about when a is 1. So it's going to change up a little bit with the steps that we're doing. I'm here on behalf of myself, Miss Miller, Miss Flesta, Mrs. Benedict, and Mrs. Vargas to teach us what we need for Algebra 1. So our steps to factor, these come from Mrs. Flesta. She did an awesome job of creating these steps. So we're going to find factors of a times c. Notice that that is not changing. We're going to identify what the a value is, the b, and the c. That is still remaining the same. And just like our x from all the previous examples, we're going to put a times c at the top and our b number at the bottom. Then we're going to write factors as a fraction over ax. Remember that you're going to list your factors that add up to b, and when you put them, instead of just putting them on the sides, we're now going to put it over ax. So whatever my a value is, we're going to include the x, and we're not going to include the squared. Then we will reduce. This is an important step. We're going to reduce the fraction when possible. And then whatever this is, we're going to read from bottom to top. We're going to write our parentheses because our final answer is always a factored form. So whatever this reduced fraction becomes our factor, and whatever this reduced fraction becomes my other factor. Again, we're going to write the parentheses from bottom to top. So again, let's go over those steps. First, we're going to find factors of a times c that add up to b, same as before. We're going to write each factor, but now we're going to write it as a fraction. That's what's new. We're going to write our factor over ax, a factor over ax, paying attention to our signs. We're going to reduce the fraction when possible, and then write it from bottom to top. Notice the beautiful arrow Miss Flesta gave us, and we'll put it in parentheses. To help remind us on reducing fractions, let's just take a look at a few. If these were the fractions, and you might see it as 8 over 2x of what we have, since there is a number that goes into both of them, 2, we're going to divide the top and the bottom by 2, which will now give us 4 over 1x. And what that now will look like as a parentheses, if I read from bottom to top, I'll have x, and I'm going to write plus 4 since 4 is positive. Here we have -4 and 6. We want to reduce that. There's a number that goes into 6 and 4. That number is 2. We can't reduce by 3 because 3 only goes into 6, not 4. So again, we're going to reduce our top number by 2 and our bottom number by 2. If this was factoring, there'd be an x here. So we keep our sign, -2 over 3x. We'll read from bottom to top. So I get 3x, then -2. 5 over 10. I know a lot of us in class will sometimes mess this up and say 2 because you're reading it as 10 over 5, remembering that the smaller number is on top. When I reduce this, I reduce it by 5, reduce by 5. Where I got 5 from is I know 5 goes into itself and 10. So I get 1 over 5. If this was our factoring, we'd have 1 over 5x, so my factor would be 5x plus 1. Just trying to get you used to seeing the examples. Now 16 over 12. Let's reduce this. 16 over 12. You could reduce by 2, but I know a larger number that goes into both, and that is 4. So I can divide this by 4, this by 4. It's important you take the greatest common factor out. So then we would get 4 over 3. This would be the reduced fraction. If it was a factor, it would become 3x plus 4. So I hope this review was a little helpful for you before we go into the actual steps for factoring. So let's look at our first example. Notice our a value is no longer 1 like it once was. If you need to, you can write underneath or on top the order. So my a value is 2. My b value, since it's right next to x, is going to be -1. Always take that sign with it. And my c value is -6. So our first step is going to be multiply a times c. So I have 2 times -6, which gives me -12. So now I'm going to list factors of -12. And like before, we're going to list them as factor pairs. And we're just going to go in order. So I have a +1 and -12, -1 and 12. 2 goes into 12 6 times, so I can have +2, -6, -2, +6. 3 goes into 12. 3 goes into -12 -4 times. -3 goes in +4 times. I know I'm done because if I started to divide by 4, I would get 3, and that list is given. Now we want to find the add to my b value, which is -1. So if I add these two numbers together, 1 plus -12 gives me -11. -1 plus +12 is +11. 2 plus -6 gives me -4. -2 and 6 gives me +4. 3 and -4 give me -1. Ding, 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 ding. We found it. So let's keep going. And -3 plus 4 is +1. This is where, I'm going to do it over here because I have a little bit more room. When we draw our x, we put our a times c value, which is -12. Remember, AC goes at the top, and B goes at the bottom. And now when I write my factors, here were the factors that worked. Right? I'm going to put 3 and -4. This has not changed from before, except for now we're going to write as a fraction over ax. So I'm going to write 2x since a is 2. And I read from bottom to top. 3 over 2 cannot be reduced, so I can write my factor as 2x plus 3. -4 over 2 can be reduced by 2. So I get -2 over 1x. So I get x minus 2. And these are my factors. The order does not matter. If you wanted to write it as x minus 2 times 2x plus 3, that would be fine as well. All right. If you would like to pause and try to copy this down as your notes, this would be a good stopping point. We're going to go on to the next example. So if you want to pause and try to do it on your own and then copy it down, that's fine too. Here is our next example. We have 3x squared plus 13x plus 14. So my A is 3, B is +13, and C is +14. Our first step is to multiply A times C. So I'm going to do 3 times 14. And if you don't have your calculator, again, a quick mental math. 3 times 10 is 30. 3 times 4 is 12. So you add those together and you would get 42. And that's a +42. Now I'm going to list my factors. So I have +1 and 42, -1 and 42. I have 2, both are negative to give us a positive number. Sorry about that. 2 and 21, -2, -21. I have 3 and 14, -3, -14. 4 does not go into 42. 5 does not go into 42. 6 does go into 42. times 7, and we also have negative 6 and negative 7. And I know I'm done because the next number would be 7 that's listed. So here's all my factors. I ran out of room a little bit. That's okay. And now we're going to find what it adds to. We want it to add to our b value and 13. So let's see. 1 and 42 will give me 43. That's not going to work. Negative 1 and negative 42 is negative 43. 2 and 21 is 23 and negative 23. 3 and 14 give us 17. Negative 3 and negative 14 is negative 17. 6 and 7 give us positive 13. Negative 6 and negative 7 give us negative 13. So right here are the factors that add to b. So let's draw our x to organize our information. Our a times c goes at the top, which is 42. The bottom number, b, is 13. And then when I write this, we write it as a fraction over ax. A being 3, so I have 3x, 3x. So I can write my factors, 6 and 7. 6 over 3 is a reducible fraction. And when I reduce that, I'm going to just draw a little arrow. I end up with 2 over 1x. So my factor would be x plus 2, because again, we read from bottom to top. And then 7 over 3 cannot be reduced, so I could write it as 3x plus 7. Again, your order doesn't matter, so you could write it as 3x plus 7 and x plus 2, but it's important that the x and 2 are together and the 3x and positive 7 are together. We're going to do one more example, so if you'd like to try this next one on your own, if you'd like to hit pause right now, you can and try to factor this on your own, but I'm going to go ahead and do it if you're still a little confused. So let's identify what our a, b, and c are. So we have 6x squared, 1x minus 2. So my a is 6, my b is positive 1, and c is negative 2. So I need to do a times c. 6 times negative 2, which is going to give me negative 12. Remember, you're multiplying. And now I'm going to write my factors of negative 12, which we did already, but let's do it again. We have positive 1 and negative 12. Negative 1 and 12. We'll get 2 and negative 6. Negative 2 and 6. We can have 3 and negative 4. And negative 3. Ooh, just going to make it and 4. And now we want it to add to my b value, which is positive 1. So when I add 1 plus negative 12 gives me negative 11. Negative 1 plus 12 is positive 11. We'll get negative 4. Negative 2 plus 6 is positive 4. 3 plus negative 4 is negative 1. And negative 3 and 4 is 1. So my very last factor is what works. Don't get discouraged if as you're going through you're like, oh, it's not happening. Do add them all up to see which ones work. So I'm going to draw my x. A and times c is at the top. So I have negative 12. My b value is in the bottom, positive 1. And I write it as a fraction now. So 6x, my ax, 6x, which is a times x. And now my factor. So I have negative 3 and 4. And what's special about this example is both of these factors can be reduced. So if I reduce this by 3, I'm going to get negative 1 over 2x. And if I reduce this by 2, I'm going to get 2 over 3x. So when I read from bottom to top, my factors become 2x minus 1, 3x plus 2. If you're unsure, feel free to FOIL. Remember 2x times 3x, 2 times 3 would be 6, x and x would be x squared. That's my first term, 6x squared. Negative 1 times positive 2 gives me negative 2, which is my c value. So that's how I know I did it work. You could also have written it as 3x plus 2 times 2x minus 1, remembering that the order doesn't matter as long as the terms themselves are the same. I hope you find this video helpful, and as always, please reach out via email if you have any questions. Miss you all. See you next Monday for our virtual live lesson.